And we were one of 51 awardees throughout the United States. And they awarded funding in 3 tiers. So we were awarded funding in tier 3 based on the population of the geography that we're serving. And it's a 2-year grant. So we applied back in July. It was a really quick turnaround, and we were notified at the end of October. And the grant period just recently started in December. It will run for 2 years. And the overarching, big picture goal is to help provide outreach for businesses in underserved communities. And the SBA defines that as communities that serve women, veterans, and socially and economically disadvantaged individuals. And the model, as dictated by this funding opportunity, is a hub and spoke model. So we are the hub, and we're working with 5 spoke organizations to provide this outreach to underserved business owners. And our goal is to build relationships and provide more access to support these entrepreneurs through our resources at Startup Sioux Falls, but also through the resources of our partner organizations like the SBA, SBPC, and the list goes on and on. And so we will be sharing more information soon on our website and also in a feature article. But I'll talk a little bit about the organizations we're going to be working with. So 4 of our spoke organizations will be helping to bring our co-starters Business Accelerator program to the people they serve. So we will be working with LSS, MB, Dakota Resources, and Thunder Valley. And I can share more detail about that later, but we're so excited to help bring that amazing program to more people in our community and throughout the state. And then we have a 5th spoke that we're working with called the SBVC. They're a great partner to us, but they're actually going to be utilizing some of their funds to help fund the Coyote Business Consulting Group for another year.
Brienne, those pants are fantastic. You look very festive. I'm a little jealous.
Thank you. Yeah, round of applause for my pants. Let's do this.
I just had to say, I'm like, thank you. And Beth, you should have kept it boobs, man. Marketing, that's how it goes. I'm serious. Do you know how many people are going to be applying for that? Anyway, I'm disappointed. Maureen has the best laugh, and so I'm so excited to hear that, by the way. Also, I've heard of a couple people that have moved here recently, and so I'm super excited to see people from other states coming here and realizing that South Dakota is pretty awesome, because we've known this for a while. So it's fun to see them and hear their stories. So if you haven't met them yet, raise your hand. Make sure you meet them. Gentleman back there. Yeah, I know, I'm putting you on the spot, I'm sorry. But anyway, it's good to see people here from other states. All right, now to the business. We received an SBA Fast Launch, or actually Fast Grant that we call the Fast Launch Program. And the reason why we applied for that is my board told me I needed to apply for a grant. I wasn't really excited about doing that because I know that there's a lot of work involved with them, but it's been a really good thing. So we partnered with the South Dakota Giant Vision Competition to really make sure that the applications that are received from them go into that competition are good, and that we put support around those entrepreneurs rather than, hey, here's an application process, go ahead and apply if you'd like to, be part of this. We said, hey, we're gonna give you some resources. I'm gonna drop all these all over. Flyers there for anyone who needs them. But we said we're gonna help you with this. So customer discovery is a really difficult thing sometimes. Everyone has this really great idea and great concept, and the market might go, I don't really care about that, right? So we're for those that are successful applicants can receive up to $1,500 in customer discovery application process. We also have worked with Catherine Coda with Dakota State University with the Paulson Entrepreneur Center, and she is putting together workshops to help you identify what does it look like? How do you go out and find those customers? How do we identify if we should pivot our company or not? So she's helping with that and with the business plan implementation, which for those that have gone through the customer discovery, can then apply for up to $10,000 in additional funding for learning how to write either a business plan, maybe it's you need a website, maybe you need whatever it is that you discovered, you can apply for up to $10,000 in additional funding for that. The one string we do have is for those that receive the $10,000 for the business plan implementation, do either have to go on and apply for an SBIR or an STTR, or have to apply to the Giant Vision competition. But along that way, we are putting mentors around you. We're helping you as much as we can with Catherine, with Startup Sioux Falls, Ascent, Elevate out in Rapid City, all across the state. So we're making sure that the entrepreneurs have the resources that they need to hopefully have a successful SBIR application or a successful Giant Vision application. So that's the gist of it. You can go to our website at sdbio.org and you can find more information.
Thank you all so much. I have to imagine that hearing all of these women talk was both inspiring and overwhelming. There's a lot of information, there's a lot of opportunity out there, and it's really hard when you're starting a business, like, where do I start? What do I do first? Again, we're trying to kind of wrap our arms around the ecosystem and make this easier for folks to navigate. So we truly need to be those subject matter experts in who the partners are, who the players are, and how they can help. I'm going to bounce around a little bit, but Beth, I kind of want to ask you a little bit more about how you envision area universities being a representative of the University of South Dakota. How are the universities playing a larger role in the startup ecosystem? Because there's so many budding, bright entrepreneurs that are coming out of the universities. How do we harness that energy, and how do we keep them engaged and staying in our state?
And I actually have a quick question for Joni, and I should
Sure.
know the answer to this before I answer. Is SDFast just for tech-based?
Oh, so, should have said, no, we're not. Anyone can apply for this. People get, obviously South Dakota Biotech, we're the ones that applied for the grant, but it is not exclusive to anything biotech. So any entrepreneurs can apply for this and have that access to the same funds. Thank you. It's a one-year grant. Sorry.
Oh, I did a bad job. It's a one-year grant that we were awarded for this year, but we can reapply again for up to 3 years. So we intend to do that, but we hope to build upon that. We're going to learn about this year and see what the entrepreneurs need, and then hopefully next year adjust our application just a bit.
Thank you. I always get confused, and sometimes I remember that it's not just tech-based, and anyway, forget. So when it comes to tech-based entrepreneurs, obviously universities play a huge role in that. When you think of a PhD scientist in his or her lab coming up with these amazing aha discovery moments, and you want to start talking about intellectual property and patenting and what that would look like as far as a strategy for really getting this aha discovery moment out to the marketplace, you're definitely talking about universities. We've got the labs and the funding, and universities are hiring the PhDs and the faculty members, grad students, postdocs. So that's where a lot of the tech-based IP is coming out of. That's School of Mines, Augustana, SDSU. So definitely the universities play a huge role in this tech-based startup. So what universities do is we have these faculty members that come up with these amazing discoveries, and then we say, hey, our mission as a university is an educational mission. Our mission isn't a for-profit, mission to make money. So we have to merge with the private industry in some way, shape, or form so that we can get your idea and your discovery that you created in your lab out to the marketplace. So then for a long time, we were really pushing our faculty members to be a business owner, be an entrepreneur. But it turns out becoming a faculty member is actually really hard. So if you're going to be a faculty member, seriously, you spend years and years and years to try to get into that position. And once you're there, they love their job. So here is, USD saying, hey, you have this awesome idea, but we're not for profit, so you should be a business owner and you should be this for-profit mission to get your idea out to the marketplace. Well, it actually a little bit worked. I'm telling you a story and then I'll get to the whole university. it kind of worked. So in the summer of 2020, we had several faculty members that were starting to create their own businesses and work with lawyers and accounting. And Ryan Oines is an entrepreneur mentor, and he just had his phone ringing off the hook, people asking him for free services to help. And then we also had all these faculty members that said, hey, you guys said it would be this great idea to create a business. Turns out that's hard, and it's really expensive, right? It's really expensive. So they say, hey, here's my budget. I haven't even started to prototype yet because it turns out lawyers are expensive. And there you go. I'm married to one. They're great, but yeah, I mean, legal and accounting can really sap the business of a startup. So then we start thinking about entrepreneur mentors like Ryan Oines that are getting a lot of calls from businesses that are doing essentially a lot of free consulting. So how can we help the Ryan Oineses and also the business people with connecting them to these services? And for a long time we were thinking about maybe an entrepreneur network between SDSU and DSU and what that would look like. Startup Sioux Falls already has an amazing mentor network. So what other services could we help to provide as a university system to faculty inventors and grad students just coming out of the system in general, regardless of what institution? So there is definitely competition between the universities, absolutely. But I feel like when it comes to science and collaboration, I don't see that as much in the entrepreneur world. I mean, for sure in sports and maybe certain other aspects of academia. But I do feel like there's a great collaboration. In fact, I just had my counterpart at School of Mines yesterday. He had one of his entrepreneurs just recently moved to Sioux Falls, and so he got us in touch with Craig. I think we sat at his table. He was telling us about his new plane. Anyway, so it's definitely very collaborative. I think it's just a matter of knowing what resources each university can provide to entrepreneurs and how to make sure that we can just connect everybody.
That was a good way to surmise it, and that's literally what we're working on doing, is being that subject matter expert in the ecosystem. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to kick it over to Sara, and I want to hear a little bit more about, it sounds like we're all trying to not step on each other's toes, identify gaps, and not overlap services. So Sara, what unique value proposition do you feel Co-Starters Accelerator Program serves for the entrepreneur community? And what impact do you see this SBA Community Navigator program having on the underserved communities?
So I think there's two really big value propositions related to co-starters. One is that the program centers the customer, and we actually have a few co-starters graduates in the room, so they might have a different opinion, but I feel like the program actually helps the entrepreneur center the customer. And so when they're building their product or their service, it challenges them to really think about if they're solving a problem that people actually want to pay for. I think the other really unique value proposition is that it's cohort-based learning, and so the cohort builds relationships with each other that they take with them after the cohort. Not all of these businesses are going to succeed necessarily, but we hope that that entrepreneur that maybe doesn't succeed the first time tries again, and they have relationships that they can go back to when they're starting again. And additionally, through our mentorship network, we connect the participants to people throughout our network. And, they're connected with a mentor at the end of the program for 2 meetings, but that mentor might connect them to another person, and then that person might connect them to another person. So it just compounds. As far as the underserved piece of that, as the hub, we're the subject matter expert in terms of knowing the resources within the entrepreneur ecosystem. But the spokes are the experts in terms of serving the people they serve. And so, for example, MB, of course, we have women in our current co-starters program, but MB through the co-starters programs they're going to be able to offer childcare services. So that's going to reach a whole different level of entrepreneur that we can't necessarily reach through our programs. LSS is going to provide oral translations during each session, and they're going to scaffold the program and extend it out from 10 weeks to 18 weeks. Thunder Valley is going to do a similar thing in terms of scaffolding the program. And then lastly, Dakota Resources, they're going to serve 5 to 7 communities throughout rural eastern South Dakota. And they have a group of mentors that are well connected in those rural communities.
Question? Yeah, absolutely. If you have questions, raise your hand.
I'm curious, which of your spokes is going to be engaging with the Hispanic community?
So it's interesting you asked that, because before we got the grant, or we were notified about the grant, October 31, we were planning on our startup Sioux Falls spring 2022 cohort being Spanish speaking, regardless of grant or not. Now that we have the grant, we're thinking that LSS is probably going to be the best partner to help with that, because even if they don't have people internally, we have relationships that we think with Spanish-speaking business owners who would be really incredible facilitators. But if that doesn't end up being the right partnership, it's something we're still going to be running cohorts ourselves at Startup Sioux Falls. Probably a little bit lower scope, like 2 cohorts a year, but that's the plan right now. But if you have input or feedback, please catch me after.
All right, Joni, I want to talk a little bit about what it feels like to say, okay, there's a grant opportunity. Is this worth my time? Is this worth the pain? Is it worth all of the work involved? And what has been the biggest challenge managing your FAST grant so far, or any other grants you've managed in the past?
This is my first grant, and I think the challenge is working with the federal government, right, Jamie? Yeah, it is, actually isn't. Yeah.
Going through the bureaucracy, I mean, we're spending taxpayers' dollars. That's what this is. So being very mindful and thorough, and it is painful. It's painful growth for a nonprofit host to take on a federal grant. So kudos to all of your organizations for having the courage and strength and tenacity to go after these opportunities. But the so what really is what matters here, is that impact that we're going to see in the next couple of years because of what's being put in place right now. We're going to have exponential impact in South Dakota, in the Sioux Falls area and beyond. So yes, it can be a bureaucratic process, but we're definitely here and cheerleading you, and also supporting you as you go through it.
And honestly, it is worth it, actually. And I can say that because I have an amazing board member, Dr. Mel Used with South Dakota EPSCoR, who pretty much wrote the grant for me and is going to help me with all my quarterly updates. But when we've gone around the state to 8 different places, and we've talked to probably around 300 or 400 different people, entrepreneurs in the state. And just hearing their stories and being around them and learning what some of their challenges are makes it worth it, right? So we hear about money. How do I get money? And I don't know what to do. I'm scared. I'm not sure where to go, what to do, who do I talk to, all the things, right? So for us to go around and listen to all the entrepreneurs and actually have a solution for them rather than sitting and talking about it and saying, hey, apply to this. We want to help you. And what do you need help with? How can we support that? So for us, it's a bit of work, but it's totally worth it. And hopefully we have some really good outcomes. So we're still taking applications. So if you've been to any of our boot camps or wanting more information, we really want to get some good entrepreneurs and help them with their funding and with any mentorship and resources we can.
Last question I have, and then anyone who has got a question, please raise your hands. I want to talk about how these three opportunities support each other. And I don't know who wants to take this question, but I kind of want to put Sarah on the spot just because I do believe we are working with Bob's on the SBA Community Navigators grant. So can you talk a little bit about that collaboration?
Yes, I think like from our perspective, we're always looking to partner because as a small team, and the majority of us not actually being business owners, we rely on our partner organizations to support the entrepreneurs in our network. I think, like in terms of Bob's, if we have people going through the co-starters program or who we meet through this pilot program over the next 2 years who have a tech-based business, like Beth will be the first person we think of to send them to. And sort of the same with the work that Joni's doing. I feel like, I already know co-starters graduates that I think would be really great people to apply for Governor's Giant Vision. So that's sort of another kind of funnel that we can send people within our network to.
I like that you use the word funnel because that is definitely what came to mind as well, is just a funnel of awareness. When we got the Bob's grant, we were really excited and we knew that it was needed because we had so many people within our own network that were spending hours and hours and hours of just free consulting. So we already knew some businesses, but to really get a critical mass of people to have that impact, we need to know who our clients are. So we need to somehow find our clients. Where are they? We want to really reach throughout the entire state. So that's where these two grants really come in to help us, is just helping us to know where these people are and, give us a name and a number, and then we can contact them and let them know what our services are, what is required to be a client of Bob's, and what that program would look like for them. So for me, it's for sure that funnel of awareness and getting clients into the Bob's program.
I want to add one more thing. There's so many pieces to our project that I forget about them, but another piece that we're hoping to incorporate is a part-time EIR of some sort. And of course, if you know Peter on our team, he's incredible at helping people navigate the ecosystem and the different resources, but a part-time EIR is going to hopefully add an additional layer to helping people find the resources like Bob's and the FAST grant. Oh, thank you. Entrepreneur in residence.
Everything's an acronym around here, but I want to just say one thing too. South Dakota Biotech, we're a trade association, so we have membership that is entrepreneurs, startups, inventors, and mature companies and emerging companies. So we really try to connect those mature companies and that experience with those, especially in the tech base. Beth and I worked very, very closely together, and all the universities have. So I think there is that. We have that ability to do that within the biotech industry. What's been exciting for me with this grant is learning the opportunities for those outside of the biotech industry and really make those connections as well, because there's a need all across. I do think the tech ones have a little bit more of a challenge because the funding that they need oftentimes are in the millions, and it takes a lot to get to where they need to be. So it's fun to be able to work with you guys, Startup Sioux Falls, and really kind of see what other entrepreneurs are doing out there.
Hello, Megan Raposa with Sioux Falls Simplified, co-starters graduate as well with my buddy Nate here. So you talked about, you've got the grant support, you've got the support within the startup ecosystem with each other. What do you need from the broader business community, and especially when it comes to, supporting and getting more of these historically underserved populations into, becoming entrepreneurs themselves? What do you need from the broader business community?
Megan, is that directed towards anyone in particular? Yeah, I'm not great on the spot. No, I honestly right now we're in the phase of still wrapping our minds around it and trying to to build the capacity internally, not only to do it, but to do it well. But I think just awareness and sharing information, we're gonna have more information on our website soon. It's gonna be a community effort, obviously, because we're gonna have so many different organizations involved. Beyond the spokes, we also are gonna be working with some different contractors as well. And I think that's also sort of the challenge and the beauty of our ecosystem is it's a little bit messy. It's not straightforward. And so we do rely on those sort of like informal kind of relationships and connections. I would say as like graduates, both Megan and Nate, like we're going to be tapping you to be guest speakers, I hope, and mentors to other entrepreneurs in the community over time, because that's really important too.
I have to say I love that question. My favorite question is when you ask, what do you need from us? So we're let us know what we need to help the entrepreneurs too. So we've done this, we've got these grants, but make sure that we're doing and going the right direction as well.
Hard question time. So in South Dakota, we have a great kind of network of startup resources in terms of venture capital, mentors, communities, kind of stuff. What we always seem to be lacking is venture capital track startups. Like there just aren't that many of them in terms of like investable stuff. We're lucky, we'd be very lucky if there were 5 a year. So in terms of how we think of ourselves as support organizations, do we need to really broaden the network of people we're trying to help, or do we need to focus on persuading people that they should launch high growth startups? Because it always seems like the infrastructure is stronger than the network of startups themselves. And how do we react to that? Like, we know that is the case, but what do we do about it?
I have the mic, I'll start, but I want to pass on. I think we're doing it. It has to start somewhere. And by us sitting up here together, talking about this from a tech perspective, biotech, university, and broader entrepreneurship aspect, I think this is what we need to do to start. You're right, Matt. We do need to get some of those companies up and going. And for us, I really think at least in the biotech space, primarily what Beth is doing with this BOBS, this back office support, is critically important. What we've done as this association with the biotech companies, at least, is gone out and found what do our entrepreneurs or startups need? Who do they need to talk to that don't already reside here? So we don't have a lot of those companies or mentors that are here for us in the biotech industry, at least. So we're trying to make those connections. But I think it's a start. And we are very aware of that, Matt, and really trying to find those stars and those really good companies or those entrepreneurs that have an idea that we know are coachable and we can put our arms around, because not all of them that we can, and identify those and really help them go along the way. So if you have other feedback for me, that'd be great, but I'm with you. I get you.
Yeah, Matt, you could probably answer this question just as well, if not better than any of us up here. But we noticed the same thing. I mean, it's part of why Zeal rebranded in 2016 is because, there was a need to wrap the organization's arms around like the broader entrepreneurial community. I was saying co-starters, we see a little bit, a few high growth, but the majority of the businesses in our program are small business, and that's absolutely great. I think that it's a combination, it's a complex issue, and I could be wrong, but to me, it's in part, a certain lack of research dollars. I hate to always bring this up. This is not news to anybody, but state universities not in our community. And so a lot of like tech-based graduates are not necessarily always ending up in Sioux Falls. And that's based on research I've looked at comparing our community to Fargo. There is a gap there. But, I've also talked to, wonderful people like Will in the room who says, if someone wants to learn to code, they'll learn to code. They don't necessarily, need to have a code camp. But it's something that we are looking at very closely. Peter on our team and Brienne both kind of have are taking the pulse on this. We can't necessarily solve it all right now, but it's something that we're looking at and we want to figure it out.
I like this question because I feel like it's a little bit of a chicken and the egg. So if you've got someone that had this amazing discovery at work that day and they think this could really help patients. I mean, I really see this being pretty big. Don't get me wrong, I need to get more data on this, but I think this could be pretty big. So now I'm sitting in my basement and I'm thinking, how much money do I have in my savings account? I don't know how much a patent attorney is going to cost me. How much is getting QuickBooks Online versus QuickBooks Desktop? What other grant funding is out there? Above and beyond just intellectual property stuff. Who's the accountant that knows how to do all this for me for this particular business model? And what types of VC funding or angel funding, grant funding do I have access to? So I see this person, in their basement just thinking, maybe I can't do what I want this to do. I mean, maybe this will never help patients someday because I don't myself know how to do all this stuff and I don't know where the resources are. And then, Megan, this goes back to your question as well. It really comes down to awareness. So if this person sitting in their basement is like, what's up, there's Bob's. So it's like, all of a sudden, there's an arm of that can help to answer some of those questions. And they think, do I have to do the whole business model-y stuff by myself? Do I have to figure out, a market strategy? And then, what's up? There's like SD Fast and SD Bio. And then you guys have got a lot of services, all your spokes, SBDC. So it's just bringing awareness to that entrepreneur who's just this budding entrepreneur in their basement thinking, how in the heck am I supposed to get this off the ground? And we've, to your point, if we're building all these resources, how are we supposed to have enough people come out from their basement idea and really move forward with it? And I think we're really, really, really on the right track. I do think we're in the beginning stages where people are just now realizing that there really, truly are enough resources to help them move forward with this business idea in a way that's not so prohibitively risky to themselves, their investments, and their time. So we're providing that support. I think it'll just take baby steps of awareness of what that means to grow and scale and start these companies to eventually come together, but I really think it will.
I'm going to follow it up with an easy one. Yeah. So which of your programs are aimed towards more of startups versus already established entrepreneurs?
That's a really good question. In my mind, I'm always thinking of the super new startup. I mean, the person that hasn't really incorporated yet. In my mind, our client is someone who is connecting to Bob's ideally before their prototype funding is being drained by legal and accounting and patenting and stuff like that. So we'd really like to catch them on that so that they can save their money for the prototyping and their materials and supplies or whatever it is that they need to materially run their business. But if someone who is already incorporated and they are looking to grow what they've already launched, I absolutely feel like there could be a place for Bob's to support them as well, even just as a connector. If they've already found funding for the IP, all that stuff never seems to end. So I'm sure it's just a long road there. So I'm sure that we could help regardless of whether they've incorporated and they've started or whether they're just starting. I think both.
Ours is a combination of both. When I think about our core co-starters program right now, we have folks like Megan and Nate who are both, I think you're both first-time entrepreneurs, in the same cohort with Sana of Sanaz and Chris Hintz of Pinnacle, or I guess Helen's Plan. So it's really a combination of both, and that's really the beauty of it. That accelerator is a more general accelerator. So if we had a high growth, company go through that program that needed more support, they might go on to a more specific accelerator. But I imagine through the actual grant pilot program, we're going to see more first-time business owners or people who've been doing kind of like a side thing, a side hustle, and want to turn it into something more.
Ours has been entrepreneurs, startups, early. Some, I think some companies have been around for a bit, but they're mostly entrepreneurs.
All right, I would love to keep going. Oh, do you have one more thing? Okay.
Thank you so much for showcasing these amazing resources. And these are just a snapshot of federal grants that are put into place in South Dakota and across the nation and U.S. territories as well. So pretty much in every state, wherever you go, if you're going to be moving here to South Dakota, or if you're thinking of relocating, maybe where your home state could be, there's resources everywhere, and you can find the resources for SBA at sba.gov/local assistance. And so we have these wonderful organizations and partners of SBA. We also have the Women's Business Center. Ashley Bigger is the SDCEO, Women's Business Center East Executive Director here in Sioux Falls. That's a fairly new grant for the state. We expanded our WBC network by an extra one by 100%, right? So we're working on getting more torque and FTEs in this coming year. But we also have a Women's Business Center out west to help cover, put a net across the entire state. And the beautiful thing is that you can virtually connect. You don't have to, drive to Sioux Falls if you're not from here, or drive to Spearfish to get an appointment. There's a lot of great virtual connections. Our SBDC network, it's been mentioned a lot. It's a spoke for community navigators. That's another large federal grant that has a state match, a Governor's Office of Economic Development, and there's 7 centers across South Dakota. And we have it designed where there's, you can drive. I mean, if you're 2 hours away, there's really an SBDC within about 2 hours of everybody. And it doesn't take long to get the technical assistance that a business needs. But when we're talking about startups, or whether you're already a business that's up and running, you're going to have hiccups along the way no matter what level you're at. You're going to have growth, and it's going to be painful. That's what business is about, but it's also about the best feeling in the world, being your own boss, employing yourself, employing others, providing goods and services, being a community member, being philanthropic in your community. It is the best thing that many people have chosen to do. And in South Dakota, most of our businesses are considered small, 99% actually, and that's 500 employees or less. So a small business can be rather large, right? We have a lot of them. So the Women's Business Center, the SBDC, SCORE is another one, 11,000 volunteer mentors across the United States. You can do by industry searches. And a Veteran Business Outreach Center of the Dakotas. I'm an Army veteran. If I wanted to start a business, and I have actually had a business before, but if I wanted to start one, I could leverage the Veteran Business Outreach Center of the Dakotas too. That serves both North Dakota and South Dakota. But all of the federal partners, USDA, EDA, which is a part of Department of Commerce, they have amazing grants for nonprofits, and a lot of times they're universities or other that are already going in South Dakota. So look across, and for any organizations in here that are a nonprofit, you can watch what is coming up in the future for federal grants just by going to sam.gov and looking, or the Federal Register notification. And it's super important. We try to do a good job of keeping an eye on what grants are coming up, but it's really important because this allows these nonprofits to extend more services and help more. So it is super important. But on the other side, on all of your shoulders, you have to use these services. There's data and reporting, and if they don't get used, then we don't get them. But guess what? As taxpayers, we're all paying for them every single day, whether we have them here in South Dakota or not. So we're really glad to have these new services, and we are just really heartened to continue to work and be really strong partners with you and help make this just the best state to have a business in.
Like Sara said, the ecosystem and entrepreneurship is messy, but it heartens me to know that there are at least 4, if not, everyone in this room is a resource. Jamie blows me away in the fact that she doesn't have any notes. She just knows all of that stuff up in her head. I don't know how you sleep at night. But these people are passionate. They've got a lot of information. They've got a lot of experience. You can plug in any one of these ways and you'll probably get connected to all of us at some point. That's part of the beauty of this ecosystem. So thank you all for your passion, for sharing today. And I think we should probably come back here in a year's time and let you know where we're at, right? Speaking of like reporting and data. So yeah, give it up for these ladies. Thank you. All right, to wrap it up, we want to thank our sponsors, Startup Sioux Falls, First National Bank in Sioux Falls, Ide Bailey, Market Beat, Creston Properties, State Farm, Ty Tevidal agent, and the Museum of Visual Materials. And I will let you know that we are taking a break for the holidays, right? We don't have an event next week. So we will come back on the 12th. We don't have a speaker scheduled just yet. We'll be back here on January 12th here at the museum at 9 a.m. And then on the 19th, we've got Tom Slattery from JJ's Wine and Spirits. Hopefully he brings free samples. 126, we've got Laura Caroon with Lady Boss Midwest. That's going to be a really great one. On the 2nd of February, we've got Adam Finke of 2.0, and then on February 9th, David Gronveld of ARSI, who's been incubating out of the Zeal space for quite some time now, and he's got some good information to share. So thank you all for being here. Please, if there's anything I could ask of you, tell somebody else about this event. We would love to continue to grow this community, and it only works if people show up. So please bring a friend next time, and we hope you have a very happy holiday. Drive safe today. The weather's very strange today. So we'll see you soon.